Port security can be configured on your switch to control which devices can be plugged into which ports on your network. This allows you to potentially control unauthorized access to your network. We're going to take a look at how to configure port security. There are three basic steps. Number one, you would set a permanent MAC address into the MAC address table. This is actually an optional step due to the fact that you could also simply allow the port to learn a MAC address. Number two, you set port security by setting a particular max MAC count or a maximum MAC address count, controlling how many MAC addresses can actually be seen on that port. And third, which is also an optional step, would be to set an action that would take place if there was an address violation. Let's take a look at the configuration commands to configure port security. The first step that I mentioned was setting a static or permanent MAC address entry into the MAC address table. You do this with the command MAC address table static, and then you can indicate the actual MAC address, and you could also indicate the VLAN that would be associated with that particular entry. Secondly, you set port security with the port security command, port security max MAC count. Here I've specified 2, indicating that there can be 2 MAC addresses that can be associated with the particular port or that can be learned on that particular port. This means that, say for instance, you have a switch here and a hub, and there are 2 PCs attached to that hub. That's the 2 MAC addresses that can be learned on this particular port. If someone else comes along and plugs a third PC in, that's a third MAC address, and port security will not allow that particular port. Depending on the parameters or the action that you set for the switch to take if there is an address security violation. Port security action is the command that you would use. You can shut down the port, where the port would actually shut down and disable, or it can simply be set up to do a trap, which means that it would record the fact that there was a violation but still allow the port to continue operating. To verify your port security, you can use show MAC address table secure. Notice this would be used from the privilege mode prompt, or show port security. Both of these commands would give you information about the port security that you've set. Using layer 2 port security, you can have some limited control over unauthorized access.